Okay, well, I'm Samantha Langley, and this past summer I spent a month in Accra, Ghana, which is the capital of Ghana. I lived with a family. It was like I was a host student, and we visited an orphanage for a week and a half and traveled the second week and a half. And okay, so this was when I left the airport, or when I was in Texas, like leaving. Yeah, there's a lot of tears that day. And then I got to New York. This is Jacob. He was my application advisor. He is the one who helped me make sure I had all of the stuff that I needed, like all my medical history and all of that, to make sure that I would be able to legally get into Ghana. And then he ended up being able to go on a trip, and it was his first AFS trip to ever get to go on. He's from Portland, Oregon. Yes.
What does AFS stand for?
Oh, AFS is American Field Service. It's the organization that I traveled with, like the exchange student program. This was some of us at the airport in New York getting ready to fly to London. Jo, the girl in the middle, she's from California, and they called this pose the Cali. Well, that's what we called it, because she was the only one from Cali, and so she's the only one that did it. So we all made fun of her and did it all the time. And then this is some of us in London. We were exhausted, because we flew overnight. We left at 11 p.m. New York time and got there 6 a.m. London time, I think. Something very early. So we were all tired, but excited, so we couldn't sleep on the plane. And then when we got to Ghana, this was our welcome sign inside the airport. It says, Ghana welcomes all visitors with goodwill. Ghana does not welcome pedophiles and other sexual deviants. Indeed, Ghana imposes extremely harsh penalties on such sexually aberrant behavior. If you are in Ghana for such activity, and for everybody's good, including your own, we suggest you go elsewhere. Accra, it means welcome. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong there. And then this was on our AFS bus that first night. We arrived at 9 p.m. Ghana time, so we were extremely tired because we traveled for a good day and a half. And then this was the University of Ghana. It's where we had our orientation, and they attempted to teach us Twi, but we were still jet lagged and half asleep for the whole lesson. And Twi is the native language, other than English, of Ghana. We were in the conference room, and that's one of the only places in that building that they had AC, and it was on way too high. And everybody started falling asleep, and they got mad at us for falling asleep. Oh, dang it. This is, I think her name was Benedicta. When we were at the AFS building for another orientation after we'd already met our host families, we were about to leave, and this little, a bunch of kids were leaving school, and they walked past, and they saw a bunch of white people, so they stopped. And so there was about 20 of us. And she refused to smile because her brother wouldn't give her some of the drink, some of their flavored water. But then one of the guys, Alan, was able to coax a laugh out of her, and they caught it on picture. And then some more of the students. And then this is Jo from Cali, that's Sarah from Arizona, and Lou from Oregon. This is my house that we lived at. Wow. Yeah. That's our evil little cat.
No dogs.
I'm allergic to cats, but the American I lived with loved the cat, so we fought about that sometimes.
Was that a family's home? You were there, but it was your whole group?
Yes. No, just my family. That was my host family's home. So another girl and I lived at that house together with our host family.
What did the head of the family do?
Our dad, he did something on advising other countries on how to get out of poverty, basically. Yeah. And then our mom taught English. This was our kitchen. Our mom ironed every night. And then in here is the actual kitchen. This is just where we ate, I guess. Cleaning dishes. That was gross. And we had no running water, so we got the water out of the well, and we cleaned with that water. And we actually found maggots on every sponge except for one, and we saw our host family cleaning with one of the maggot sponges, but then they put our food on the dish so we couldn't like rinse it off first. Oh, it was awful. We were just like, sorry, I don't want to eat it. It was pretty bad. But so when we were home alone, we made sure we used the clean sponge. That was our staircase and all of our laundry after we washed it. They actually had a washer, thankfully. Some of the other kids had to hand wash, and I just...
Why would you put it outside?
We did, but then at night they didn't want to leave it outside for some reason, so we hung it up on the stairwell. But it was in our backyard, so I'm not sure. And everything had barbed wire or like sharp things, so you couldn't climb the fences. That was a really fancy staircase. Apparently our host mom designed the house before it was built. And then that was my room. There were bunk beds over on the side that when we had sleepovers, we would move Clara, the girl I lived with, her mattress onto the floor. 2 people would sleep in my bed, Clara would be on the floor, and someone else would be on the bunk bed. Because there was only one mattress on the bunk bed. And then that's Clara. She was from Boston, and that was us getting water from the well. That was our well.
How did you get it up?
Oh, I have a video for you, don't worry. It's quite interesting. The voice you'll hear is Claire talking, telling me I'm not doing good enough. Not happy. Clara usually made fun of me because I wasn't good enough at it, so I just let her do it, and then she complained about always having to get it. So it was kind of a lose-lose. This is our bucket showers and toilet and sink. You use a little bucket, and you just get some of the water, and it's freezing, especially at 4 in the morning when you're getting ready to go to a funeral. So that was not fun. And then
You're getting ready at 4 in the morning to go to a funeral.
yes. We had to leave very early. And
Is that the traditional there, to have it at 4 a.m.?
no, it was in our host family's village, so we had to leave a little early because it was an hour-and-a-half trip. Well, that's what they said, it was like a 3-hour trip. We got in trouble after like the first week because we weren't flushing well enough, apparently. Because you're supposed to use half of the big bucket, not just the little bucket. And we didn't know that at first, so it wasn't going very well. And then this one, you use the little bucket, and then they had like liquid soap, and you just dip it in there. That one was hard not to make a mess during. This was at the funeral. This is the chief and the queen of their village. I don't remember the name of it. They had a celebration kind of afterwards, and everyone like donated to help the family pay the funeral costs. And this was one of the many goats that we saw walking around everywhere.
Do they have to be buried within 24 hours after death there?
I don't believe so. Because there was one of the guys, there were 2 funerals that day. And one of them we went to, one of them was for someone who had lived in Pennsylvania, but he was from Ghana, so his family flew him home to be buried. And it was like a month after he had passed.
Could he have just given the ashes rather than the body?
I'm not sure. Okay, so we left our house at 4, like I said, and then we got there, we got to the house of the pastor, I think, around 9, and then the funeral started at 9 though, but we were at the house, and our mom and her friend were not dressed, and we were like, we're gonna go? Like, what's going on? So at 11 o'clock, we finally left to go to the funeral, and as we walked in, everyone was walking out. So we missed it, and so then, like, of the church, like we missed the whole thing at the church, And then we went to the family of the other person who had died, his family's like house, and we ate there. Like they fed us, which we all thought was kind of strange. Because they were like, shouldn't we feed you? But I don't know. And then after that we went to this party thing. And they danced and everyone donated. And everyone was red and black, and we were not informed of that. So we were in gray and blue, like we are here, and we got a lot of looks. Not only were we white, but we were in the wrong colors. But everyone was welcoming, it was nice. That's Clara.
What denomination was the church?
Pentecostal, I believe. This is our host dad, and this is our host mom. And this was at one of the dinners, I believe. And then the orphanage. Well, actually it's a foster home because some of the kids live there, but most just go to school there. So they call it a foster home instead. And then some of the babies. They range from kindergarten basically till like 18 years old that live there and go to school. Here's a video of them running to greet us. I'm not sure if you can understand them, but most of them were yelling Obruni, which means white person. So that's what everyone was called instead of your names. I didn't learn most names, you were just an Obruni, so you turned because you heard that. The kids loved when you brought your camera so they could take pictures of you, which got a little frustrating, so you're like, no, we want to see you, like we want to remember you. But they loved taking pictures, so you let them and then you just went and deleted them all, because they usually were blurry and not super good quality. And they loved being held, the little ones, like they wouldn't let you put them down, or as soon as you did, they would run to someone else and have them pick them up. So you usually had just a train of kids running between you to be picked up. And the first day I actually wore a light pink shirt. And I wasn't expecting to pick so many kids up, and their legs were so muddy, and there's still stains in my shirt from their legs. And they won't come out, they won't go anywhere. Because they were being held. This was the library we painted, and as well as teaching. The inside we painted it the yellow and gray. That was the outside when we first got there, and then the day before we left. There was also a professional painter who did the little line between the colors because they didn't trust us with that. So I don't think I would trust 20 teenagers either. This was the day, our last day, we brought presents, like a bunch of balls and school supplies and whiteboards because they all use chalkboards. So for the older kids, we got them whiteboards. And so this was all the stuff piled up that we'd given them, and most of the kids waiting. There's some of them they were paid because we told them they weren't allowed on where we were sitting, and they didn't like that. So they would get as close as they could, and they'd slowly crawl up on it, and then they'd run and sit in your lap, so you felt bad saying no. So they always won. And they carried chairs for us on their heads. For one day, we left early and went to lunch at this park, and it looked much nicer than most of the streets, and we were all very amazed. And the couches were super comfortable, and there was ping pong. So we played a lot of ping pong that day. And then it had lanterns hanging from the trees. And then after we had left the orphanage, we spent the weekend with our host families. And then we went on a tour, and we first went to Cape Coast. And so this is the slave castle that we visited.
No one's in it now.
No, it's just an old slave castle. that used to be.
Tourist.
Mm-hmm. And we saw a lot of places there. It was really exciting. And okay, so what was I saying? Right here, this was a sign for an auction, and that's one of the dungeons, and it would have up to 200 people living in it at a time, and the waste would be piled up to like here. Yeah, and then these are the chains that they like held them with.
Is this where they actually got slaves and sent to the United States?
Yes, this was some of them. Yes. So that's like what they were bound in, and then they would be kept in those dungeons for between 2 weeks to 3 months, usually.
What is this, Samantha, what does this sign say? Auction this day by what?
Auction this day by Alonzo White, 2 o'clock. Yeah. And then it was cool because in the history part of it, we actually weren't supposed to take pictures, these bottom 2 pictures, because it was in the museum, but one of the girls snuck her cameras in. But we, they would tell us like about, like it had signs of like history of the slave castles, and then it talked about actually like Martin Luther King and all of that. So I was like, whoa, I'm in history class. It was weird. It was like all names you'd heard before. And then that's like the coast of Cape Coast.
So you actually were there at this place?
Yes, we were. We stayed here for 1 night. And then that was at the slave castle. That's a lot of the group. This is Shafiq, he lived there. This is Chancellor, he also lived there, and that's Sunny, and he also lived there. They were our volunteers that like traveled with us and showed us around and made sure we weren't running around crazy. And then, oh, in Cape Coast we also did a canopy walk, and there was 7 bridges all about that long and that skinny, and you were just like on top of the trees, and it was beautiful.
And it was swaying as you walked?
Yeah, and Shafiq, he was walking with me, and he was terrified of heights, but I convinced him to go on it, and I didn't know how long it was going to be. And so I was like, at one point I was like looking way over it because heights don't bother me, and he got really mad at me. He was like, go, you need to walk now, like this isn't okay. I was like, okay, sorry. And then they had t-shirts that said, I survived the walkway on display, but you couldn't find them to buy them. And then we went to Ho, which is about 2 hours the other direction from Accra. So we had to drive the 2 hours back to Accra and then 2 more hours to Ho. And we visited Mountain Paradise. It's there. But it was raining, and we were going to hike to a waterfall, but since it was raining, they wouldn't let us. So we just got back in the car and drove for another hour to another waterfall. That was at the waterfall. We swam in it, which we thought would be a good idea until we had an hour drive back to our hostel, and we were all soaking wet. Oh. Okay, so I'll process this first. So one of the kids, Alan from Boston, decided it would be a good idea to jump from a log to the bridge. So here's his result. It's quite humorous. Okay. You'll hear him like saying why it's a good idea for him to do this.
Wait, am I the same way from him? How far am I away?
This is Alan on the left.
Wait. Alan, wait.
Chancellor, don't go on there with your slippers. No, I'm taking a video. It's a video.
I can do it. Right?
Wait, they're jumping to what? No. That's insane. Alan, no!
Donna, let him do it.
Chancellor, get out of the way!
You can't do it, so please don't do it.
And then you have to watch one of our leaders' faces at the end of this. Right here. So that was Alan attempting his jump.
Can we see that in slow motion?
I wish. Okay, my friend Joe and I, we had to go to the restroom really badly, so we left before this could happen. And so when we got back on the bus, we like heard about it. And so when we saw the video, everyone was making fun of him for it and like telling him, Alan, you're dumb, basically. And he was like, man, my ego's hurt and I'm broke. Because he decided to spend all of his money on a blazer for his dad. And he had about 20 Ghana cities left for the last like week and a half. So he was, yeah, so we had a lot to make fun of Alan for. And then in Ho, we also had a cultural performance. And a group of dancers came and they did culture dances. And then on our way back, we visited a monkey sanctuary. This is Clara. She was my roommate. That baby is 2 weeks old. And then this monkey stole our whole loaf of bread that we paid for to give them little pieces of. So he stole all of that. Yeah, and he like, it was cool though, because he like took the there's saran wrap around it, and he just like peeled it off and started eating. I was like, what monkey knows to do that?
Those aren't monkeys, those are baboons.
They call it a monkey sanctuary, I don't know. They just said monkey sanctuary.
Baboons will have an egg for the tail. There are not many of them.
Okay, and then when we got back to Accra, a couple days later, we had a farewell reception. So everyone got together and we got certificates for our trip. And it was cool because our names were actually in like typewriting. Like it was like a typewriter that had typed our names onto them instead of like a computer. And like the ink was smeared and it was really cool. And then, so this is our host brother, Emmanuel. He was 19 and he sang a lot.
Where is he now?
He's in Michigan. He's going to a small college up in Michigan. I don't know the name of it. This girl is from Canada, so it's that one actually. And there were 3 Canadian girls that were with us. So total we had 21 North Americans there. And this is our whole group. We couldn't get a picture where everyone looked at the camera. That wasn't an option with our group for some reason. So that had all of the volunteers, and he was the president of Ghana AFS Ghana. And he gave us our certificates. This is our bus driver. He endured a lot with us in the car all the time. And then that night we went to the beach. And this is like the restaurants that we ate at. It was called La Body Beach. And we got to ride horses. And we had a bonfire. And we had really good French fries. Like, some of the best French fries I had while I was there. Like, the mall had decent French fries, but these were like the best. And then we had like a bonfire that the restaurant like made the bonfire for us, and it was cool because it was kind of like as soon as someone sees the bonfire, they just walk up to it and sit down with you. So we made a bunch of new friends out there. And then this is our church right here. It's actually, I think it's actually a school, and they just have church there on Sundays. But it's called the Church of Pentecost Adenta English Assembly, and this is the road like right outside of it.
That's the road.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't see any cars drive on this part of it. And these were our 2 pastors. And that's Clara and in our dresses. That dress is now too small for me since I got home. This is a trotro. It's basically like a public bus kind of. And instead of paying like 15 Ghana cities to get from our house to the mall, we just paid like 50 pesos, so like 25 cents basically. Because everything was half. And then that's our AFS bus that fits everywhere. And then this is fufu. It wasn't my favorite. But it's plantains and cassava, and you just pound it until it's like this. And then you put soup with it. So this is fufu, final product. And that's some kind of meat. I didn't eat it. I'm not really sure what it was. Claire and I both kind of just endured the fufu and we were done. Okay, this is bow fruit. It was amazing. You bought it we bought it out of the car window a lot, and just women would carry it in big boxes on their head. And so you would, like, out your window, you're just like, can I have 2? And then you give them 50 pesos. And you got delicious. They tasted like donuts, but even more fried. And then this is fan ice, and it was probably the most amazing ice cream I've ever had. And it was always in the pouch. I saw a couple little containers, but they weren't as good. And so you just bite the edge of the pouch off, like, there's our bite marks, actually. And then you just, like, squeeze it out, kind of, and it's delicious. And we decided it was birthday cake in a bag. That's what we called it. Because it was amazing. And there was one day when we were waiting for our trotro. Like, we were in one, but it wasn't leaving because it wasn't full yet. And everyone bought at least 2 fan ices while we just waited. And they were delicious. And then this is just a normal bag of water that you drink. And like, they have a lot of bottles, but these are a lot cheaper. And you do the same thing, you just peel off the edge. But you have to make sure you're holding it right so it doesn't all spew out. That happened a lot. And it's usually cheaper, like half the price. And I mean, it tastes the same. And that we used that a lot when we were cleaning dishes, because we didn't understand how you could use the well water to clean our dishes with, but you couldn't drink it. That didn't make sense to us, so we usually used the pouches if we were home alone to clean. And then we got our hair done. That was Claire getting it straightened. It lasted about 5 minutes with the humidity. It was so curly. And then I got mine braided the Sunday before we came home, so it lasted me about a week, but it looked pretty bad by the end of that week. But I had 5 braids, and that was them like in the middle of it. It wasn't super painful. The one that was right by my temple probably hurt the worst because they were pulling the little tender hairs. And then that's a street. That was actually paved. That's a guy, oh, he's selling fan ice, actually. Whenever you heard, okay, so from our house, since we did, like, we had AC, but it wasn't amazing. Like, we still needed a fan. And so we could hear the little honking, like, you know, like the horns that buses or that bikes have? They had one of those, and you heard it, and you had to force yourself to walk away or stay in the house because you knew what it meant. And then these are just women carrying stuff, no big deal. It's ridiculous. I tried to get my host brother to teach me, but he didn't know how. And I asked him what kind of a Ghanaian he was. But he wouldn't answer that. This is the art center. I'm really sorry. One of the Canadian girls, she's online. This is the art center. This is where I bought one of the dresses and my clock that are in the back. This was just like the front of it. And then that's one of the jewelry kind of shops. And then that's a bunch of fabric. And then this was just like, they had like long aisles, like a bunch of them that were selling fabric. And then once you got to the other side, they had like pottery, well not really pottery, like wooden carvings kind of. And they were really fancy. And everyone called you my sister. And everyone grabbed your arm and pulled you into their shop. And they would be like, oh, well, if you buy one, get one free. So I'd be like, okay, I'll buy this for 2 Ghana cedis. Can I have that necklace? And he'd be like, no. I was like, well, the necklace is cheaper. Like, I know it is. But he wouldn't give it to you. And this is where you bargained a lot because they had no price tags. So my clock that I have in the back, they tried to sell it to me for 45 Ghana cedis. And I was like, I'll give you 20. So then we evened out at 30. And it was great. And that was like my first buy, like, of the trip almost, other than cabs and trotros and ice cream. Okay, so this guy, I had to pay him to get this picture because we were on a scavenger hunt, and one of the things was a picture with someone huge on their head, like, because they wanted us to get acquainted with the city, and if you called them and said you were lost, they hung up on you. Our leaders did. We had 2 of them. And they would just tell you, they'd be like, I don't care, and hang up on you, and they would wait at the mall. And so one of the things, we get this picture with this thing on his head, and he was like, are you going to buy something from me? And I was like, no, but I'll give you 2 cedis. And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, then never mind. He was like, wait, okay, my sister. And I was like, all right, thanks. And then they're selling water. Somehow it stayed cold in there. I'm not really sure how that worked. Because I never saw, like, ice. I never saw just ice. Like, we would freeze the bags sometimes because Claire liked making smoothies, and she finally realized you could freeze the bags to make ice. So we made like mango smoothies because mangoes are the best. And we went to a football game, well, soccer, football, whatever you want to call it. And then this was the pregame show. It was more exciting than the halftime show. And then those are the two teams. I have no idea what they were called. Everyone yelled, and no one would say it low enough and slow enough for me to understand them. So I just cheered because we were on the side of the yellow team, I think. So we just cheered when someone did something good. And then, okay, so this little road, our house is kind of like right here. And then, so you walk out, and then you turn left at that hotel. I think it was apartments, actually. We called it a hotel because it was fancy. And that's how we always knew if power was on, if their lights were on. And we always got excited when we were walking home and it was on. And then you turn left, and then you see that road. That one. And that's where we bought a lot of our phone minutes, our MTN. That was like the phone service we had. And they don't tell you it in minutes, like how many minutes you have. They tell you how many Ghana cities or pesos you have. So that got really frustrating because we didn't know what it meant. Because like it would say we had like 10 Ghana cities, but it would only last us like an hour. And we were like, that's not 10 minutes or 10 hours. Like, how does this work? So, but when you got down to one Ghana city, it would tell you you have one left if you were on the phone, or you had to keep checking in and make sure you didn't use it all in text. And then this was our last night. Shafiq always took my sweatshirt because he was forgetful and always forgot his. So I always made sure I had it for him, even though it was, way too small. And then these shirts say Ghana, and on one sleeve they have the flag, and the other one they had the AFS logo. And then on the back they had the outline of Ghana, and they said Team Mission 2013, because our orphanage made it a Team Mission like exchange. And then this was inside the airport. I think I was on the phone with Mom, actually. And I had cortisone in my hand because I had a million mosquito bites, like more than anyone else, so I got to be the holder of the cortisone. And people would ask me for that. And those are my patch pants. I love them. So my principal at school told me I can't wear them.
Aww.
And then there's our logo. So any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Samantha, how did you get to go in the first place? How did this all come about?
Oh man, a couple of years ago with the youth group actually, we did Zoe Ministry and we went to a Hope Walk, which it was an overnight thing at one of the local churches, and we Skyped with kids in Africa whose parents have died of AIDS, so they are raising their kids. And Zoe Ministry basically goes in and like teaches them a way of life, like raising animals or hairstylists or whatever, and so then they can like, them and their family can survive. And so it was all of the kids they had helped were walking to raise awareness for other kids so that they could also get the help of Zoe Ministry. So after we did the Skype with them, I was like really interested, and I actually looked into going to Australia for my whole junior year. So I had a friend whose older sister went to France for her junior year, and I was like, I want to do that, but somewhere they speak English. So I looked into Australia, but Mom and Dad kind of said that was not a super good idea. And it was almost too late for application, and I wouldn't have had time to raise money to go, because it was really expensive for the full year. So we were looking into other options for like a summer program where they would also speak English. And the guy was like, well, we have one in Ghana where you work at an orphanage. And I was like, whoa, that's like perfect. So I went through the application process for about 1.5 years, and I raised around $5,000, and my family helped me with the other about $5,000. So, yeah. And that paid mostly for our insurance and our flights over there. Because like the insurance was crazy. Like Mom was reading through it one day and it said like in case of death, your family will get this much money. I was like, whoa, I don't want that to happen. But I'm glad I'm covered, I guess. That's a good thing. So Zoe Ministry basically got me started on that Africa thing. And Ghana was just kind of where I ended up because they spoke English there. It was Ghana or Egypt and learn Arabic, and that wasn't an option. But they made me speak Arabic. And I would have to learn Arabic.
What did you do with the children at the orphanage?
Well, we painted the library, and then for 1 week, some of us painted, and then some of us taught, like in the schools. Or Demetrius, a guy from Chicago, and I, we were in the same classroom, and we ended up just kind of sitting there and helping the kids try to spell their family names. But at the time, we didn't know what they were saying. So that was really hard to like spell it out. We're just like, maybe this letter sounds good there. I don't know what you're saying. And so that's basically what we did.
So the official language there is English, but there's a local dialect also being spoken? Is that
Well, they have 2 official languages. It's Twi and English, right guys?
Yeah.
Twi is also like an official language?
No. Our official language is English.
Oh, okay.
Twi is just one of the local languages.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're in. Twi is local language.
It's the most popular one. Yeah.
What about the discipline in the classrooms?
Oh my gosh, it was so sad. They hit them. They hit them. They would go get a cane and they would hit them. And so we all just like looked away whenever that would happen because it was scary. And like the kids were very obedient though. As soon as they saw the cane, they sat down. They sat down. But they were motivated. There are a couple kids in our neighborhood who they lived on the little path where you could see the hotel thing. They lived like at the end of that, and so every day we'd walk by and they'd be in their little diapers. They'd be like, "Oh, Bruni!" But their mom wouldn't let them come close enough to touch us. And, awesome. Thank you.